billion shillings proposed by the Senate and the Commission for Revenue Allocation as the figure to be disbursed, while the National Assembly has set the figure at 316 billion shillings. NTV today discusses revenue sharing stalemate and how that has affected the county operations. And good morning to you. My name is Edmond Nyabola. This morning, Tuesday, 16th July 2019, live from the Nation Center. We'll also be talking to some of our reporters and correspondents on this topic that we are talking about today, and also looking at some of the stories making headlines from yesterday, and we'll continue to do so this morning as well. Now, the Ministry of Health will put together a departmental committee made up of senior public health officers to look into the safety of food and drinks being processed and sold in supermarkets. This is after NTV lifted the veil over the dirty tricks some supermarkets employ to give meat a longer life, including lacing some of them with chemicals. Meanwhile, police confiscated approximately 300 kilograms of uninspected meat at a residential house in Nyeri town. Setholale has that report.
Section dissolve. Unakuja sasa unaimwagia sasa kwa ile nyama hivi.
Just a day after NTV lifted the veil over the web of deception in the country's marketplace, the juicy secrets from behind the counter, where butchers use dirty tricks to give the meat you buy a longer life, the government appears to be caught flat-footed insofar as response is concerned. Says it will now scramble together a team of senior public health officers to look into the safety of food and drinks processed and sold in the country's supermarkets. The not-so-tasty revelations that butchers lace meat with chemicals to give it a fresh look has caused ripples of concern among meat lovers. In Kiambu County, consumers now want both the national and county governments to ban supermarkets from processing and preserving perishable food products.
Madereva tumezoea kukula hiyo nyama kwa sababu unajua sisi hiyo ndio chakula inakuanga madereva ya fasta kwa sababu tunakuwa tunakariwa na masaa. Kama ni hobby yangu mimi naweza sema hiyo, kama ni hiyo supermarket zote hiyo mambo ya mafridge imaruhusiwe kwa supermarket. Kwa sababu hiyo sio kitu imefaa. Hata tumeona hata ndio tumepata mili yetu iko wiki sana, hata mama hoja mingi tunaona kutokana kwa hiyo manyama.
Au ingie zinanunua reserve kama msipekuma wanasema mbeleka game naenda kuuzia watu huko nini huko kwa kisijio.
Inaona ni kakuku kandogo kakidungwa shindano inafura ndio inatuletea madhara ya sarakani, ile maradhi ya kansa.
Hata kwa buchari zingine wanaweka hata madawa ile inaweka nyama inakaa kwa muda kama wa siku 3 kama haijaharibika.
Kama sasa mimi siuzange nyama yenyewe ready meat, na uzanga nyama za kichwa, unaona? Na kazi zetu zinakuanga popa kwa soko juu nikiletewa mama hapa hivyo hata zila langi, unaona? Yetu si atuwekangi kwa fridge, tunauzianga nyama yenyewe ya kichwa. So nijetaka kuambia watu hiyo mambo ya kutambua mambo ya fridge tuache kuitumia sana.
Sasa sitakuwa nanunua kanyama. Sasa nitakuwa natafuta boga kwa soko napika nayo ugali. Ini kwa sababu sitaki kungojeka nikiwa mdogo.
Carrefour Kenya, one of the country's supermarkets, in a statement assured its customers and the public that it does not tolerate the use of chemicals or preservatives to extend the shelf life of meat or any other food items. The toxic self-serving interest of some traders pushes them towards these sickening odds. The chairman of Africa Veterinary Technicians Association, Benson Ameda, says the product lies with the source of the processed food products.
The meat is not slaughtered well. If the animal is not slaughtered well, then the shelf life of that meat will actually be reduced. And the first question we need to ask is this meat slaughtered in a slaughter facility? Is it inspected? How was it slaughtered? Is it transported well from the slaughterhouse or the abattoir to the outlet? Because all those affect the quality and the shelf life of meat.
And in an apparent knee-jerk reaction to the disturbing revelations, police in Nyeri intensified their crackdown on uninspected meat. In 2018, Kenya banned importation of beef products from South Africa in what it termed as being poisonous. Kenyans are now demanding that public health officers enforce stringent measures that will protect citizens from consuming food products that are already contaminated and that are already being distributed in a number of food retail chains. Seth Olale, NTV, Nairobi.
So many reactions to that story since it aired. Red alert on Sunday. In fact, some of the supermarkets will be reacting to it today. Tuskys has actually called a press conference to talk about that and the issue of food safety, the food that they actually sell to Kenyans as well. Carrefour releasing a statement yesterday saying that the food on their shelves is actually fit for consumption and that they do not use those dirty tricks that were alluded to by Dennis Ukari in that report. And still on food and health, but to a story with a very tragic ending. A family in Baringo County lost 2 children to malnutrition. One of the children died on Sunday night. 5 others have been admitted at the Baringo County Referral Hospital and are being treated for severe and mild malnutrition. Sharon Baranga with that report.
Jepto Talam is barely 2 years old. She is frail and her skin bears the marks of her struggle to stay alive. Jepto is suffering from severe malnutrition. But she's not the only one in her family. Her 4 siblings are suffering too, but it is the least of their parents' worries. They have lost 2 children to malnutrition. Their 6-year-old daughter succumbed in 2008, while the other died last night. The family of 10 is from Kemeloi, Sabor in Baringo County.
Akipiga mwezi wa mwaka moja ama mwaka mbili hivi ako na shida ya kuongea, hawezi ongea.
The 5 children from this family have been hospitalized at the Baringo County Referral Hospital.
Supposed to get enough milk when they are young. So when they don't get it, it will lead to that protein energy malnutrition. It presents with various presentation. One of them, when you look at the skin, this is called plaque pain dermatitis.
Baringo County's health officer Gideon Toromo says the severe malnutrition could be as a result of the meals the children are served daily. Ugali and milk makes up their usual diet. 4 of the children are suffering from mild malnutrition. County officials blame the parents for their children's plight, even though the parents say they can ill afford a balanced meal for the large family. Sharon Baranga, NTV.
Quite a sad state of affairs there. Now, let's go back to our topic of the day, which is the stalemate between the National Assembly and the Senate over the division of revenue to the counties. The President has actually signed the appropriations bill into law, and this still has not been agreed on. A dispute between the National Assembly want 327 billion shillings and 316 billion shillings, I should say, in the Senate, which wants 327 billion shillings to be disbursed to the counties. And on that topic, let's go to Bridget Ngana in Nakuru County to talk to us about some of the thoughts of the residents and leaders from that part of the country on this. Bridget, what are the people saying about this stalemate that we are seeing right now?
Well, it's a very technical topic that you have just raised there on the issue of the stalemate between the Senate and the National Assembly regarding the revenues that the counties are supposed to get in this financial year. And to just help us understand that is a constitutional lawyer, because these are legal matters and maybe we would be able to understand it better before we speak with the Wananchi. I'm being joined on set by Kipkoech Chingetich, a lawyer, a constitutional lawyer for that matter. And we are at the Nakuru Law Courts. I've just grabbed him out of his session in court. Thank you so much for joining us, Wakili. The issue of the stalemate between the National Assembly and the Senate regarding the funding for the counties, it's something that has been dragging for a long time now. What do you think would be the best approach to prevent this stalling devolution as it is right now?
Thank you very much. I think the senators and members of parliament need to speak with one voice. The contention, as I see, is less than 20 billion shillings. Compared to the amount of money that we use, for example, for traveling in counties, which is about the same amount. 20 billion shillings, which is causing all these disputes, is a drop in the ocean comparatively. So I'm thinking that senators and MPs need to sober up. They need to agree and have a middle ground so that this money is released to the counties forward. Released to the counties almost immediately. Even as we talk about monies to the counties, I think also as counties we need to be serious. Yes. we need to sober up for the first time. The functions of counties are well defined under Schedule number 4 of the Constitution, the first one being water and sanitation. The other one definitely is agriculture, followed by county roads and pre-primary education. But what do we see in counties? What we see in counties is traveling. I've already mentioned that counties have used about 20 billion in traveling, gallivanting the globe. There's nothing for the common person to benefit from. When you look at the second highest spender in the counties is legal services. We pay so much for legal services. This is not an important function. This is not a core function of county government. So I'm thinking as Kenyans, as the citizens, as the leadership, we need to sober up, we need to grow up and be very clear in our minds on what the people need and what has been defined in Schedule number 4 of the Constitution of Kenya.
When you mention that we are more of expenses in the counties instead of investment in improving the quality of life of the people, why would counties also say that the exchequer is slow in releasing the money to them, and that's one of the reasons why they are not even able to deliver on the basic services?
Thank you very much. I agree that there's a very big problem with the Treasury. The Cabinet Secretary, Treasury has not served Kenyans well. We experience delays as county governments. Even as a service provider, I have this first-hand experience that counties have a tall order extracting money from the National Treasury. So on a scale of 1 to 10, I think the Cabinet Secretary and the Principal Secretary Treasury should shoulder 50% responsibility for the problems that we see bedeviling county governments. Contractors have suffered. Those who have taken loans have had their properties sold out by auctioneers. Some of them are already in hospitals. Some of them have suffered stroke. Some of them are bedridden. This is not good for the business. Our government is the worst business partner you can have. It's not good at all for devolution and business.
That's a very harsh criticism for the national government, but we do understand that also, even if the counties are getting monies from the national government, they've also been charged to also increase on their revenue collection, but also the services, delivery of services. So what do you think is the legal aspect or the legal loophole that is preventing devolution from being a success?
Thank you very much. We do not have legal problems as far as devolution is concerned. The problems that we have are politics, bad politics that we have as a country, where the national office is still hesitant about devolution. The Constitution has clearly defined functions for county governments. There are well-defined functions for national government. We even have the Public Finance Management Act. We have the County Government Act. We have the Counties Assembly Service Act of 2017. Very good plethora of laws as a country. Yes. What we do not have is the political will from the national government to ensure devolution succeeds. We still treat county governments as municipal boards. We still treat county governments as local authorities. Yet we've given them very good functions, very strong functions, including healthcare. We've been seeing doctors rioting, nurses, and medical professionals. Yes. So I think for the first time we need to tell ourselves the truth as Kenyans, as a leadership, and say, do we want devolution to succeed or we do not want devolution to succeed? Because when you look at some of the monies allocated to the national government, like for example money for irrigation, this is clearly a county function under Schedule number 4. So we need to sit down again as a country and have a conversation, a very honest conversation under the BBI or whatever forum, and say, do we want devolution as Kenyans or we do not want devolution? If that is done, then I think we're going to succeed. Otherwise, as I've said, we have very good laws on devolution.
Okay. You've mentioned one thing, but the issue of corruption. When the devolution came into force, we saw that corruption was somewhat devolved, and maybe this is one of the reasons why also there's the tussle between the allocations or the increase of the allocations to the counties, because some of the senators, because they are the oversight body, feel that if these monies are increased to the counties, then that would also lead to an increase in corruption in the counties.
Thank you very much. I must concur very strongly that devolution, that corruption in this country is cancerous. However, corruption is a social problem that can be dealt with. Corruption in Kenya, of course, is treated more as a political problem, more as a social problem, yet it's a criminal problem. This is theft of public funds, and I think 40% of what we budget at the national office, what we budget at the county government is stolen. So corruption is not peculiar to county governments. National governments are leading in stealing. Look at the dams that we are talking about. Look at the NYS we are talking about. Look at the Ministry of Health. So this is not a preserve of county governments. But yes, I agree that 40% of the money allocated to county governments is stolen and is used to build skyscrapers in Kitengela. It is being used to build skyscrapers all over the country. County executives, chief officers, governors have become overnight billionaires in this country. This is something that Kenyans have to make a decision again. And we don't blame this on the leadership. I think Kenyans themselves are very corrupt. Politicians in this country buy votes. When politicians buy votes, when they sink millions of money into the votes, they are expected to recoup. This is a business for them. So there must be a return. And that is why I'm saying if Kenyans do not want corruption, and I don't think they do not want corruption, then they must stop taking money to give out their votes every general election.
Maybe as we wind up, what would be the best way forward for this stalemate so that at least some services can be up and running or continue running even despite this stalemate between the Senate about the funds for the counties?
Thank you very much. The problem is with the division of revenue bill, which has caused a commotion between the Senate and the National Assembly. The Deputy President has tried to bring all the players together. Looks like he's not succeeded. President Uhuru Kenyatta has not spoken into this issue. The President should pick his phone, speak to the chairperson of Council of Governors, speak to the Senate Speaker and the majority leaders in the respective national assemblies. Let them have a meeting and agree on this issue. This is not a personal issue. This is an issue that can be agreed upon, and especially when you consider that the dispute is just 20 billion shillings.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Those were the sentiments from a legal perspective of what really needs to be done to stop the stalemate regarding the monies that are supposed to be dispersed to the counties. But what are the issues that are arising is that we need to improve on our revenue allocation, or also from the perspective of a voter, that you should also ensure that the people you vote into office are people who have the interest or the public interest at heart. But it's a conversation that is continuing. So I'll hand you over back to Edmond, who is having the main discussion back at studio.
Thank you so much, Bridget Ngana, live from Nakuru, talking to a constitutional lawyer on this stalemate that we have right now. And the stalemate over the sharing of revenue is now before the Supreme Court as governors seek a solution to the crisis that threatens to ground county activities. The Council of Governors wants the National Treasury to adhere to the Commission of Revenue Allocation and the Senate's vote of at least 327 billion shillings as the allocation to the counties, as opposed to 316 billion shillings as proposed by the National Treasury and the National Assembly. NTV's Brenda Wanga tells us more.
At the heart of the protest by the Council of Governors are money matters. 3 weeks into the 2019-2020 financial year, and the county's funds are still tied up at the National Treasury, awaiting the resolution of the Division of Revenues Bill 2019 standoff between the National Assembly and the Senate.
We have had frustration as counties, as we are told that the National Assembly, which was supposed to introduce this particular bill, reintroduce this particular bill in the National Assembly, they are on recess. They have to go on recess for 2 weeks despite the urgency of this particular issue.
Now the COG wants the Supreme Court to step in and offer guidance. The Divisional Revenue Bill of 2019 has been the basis of a protracted war between the Senate and the COG on one hand, and the National Assembly and the National Treasury on the other. The National Treasury and the Assembly have proposed that the counties get 310 billion shillings. The Commission for Revenue Allocation had proposed that the counties draw 335 billion shillings from the national coffers for this financial year. In mediation, the National Assembly settled on 316 billion shillings, while the Senate climbed down to 327 billion shillings.
We are very saddened because all this drama is going on just because of 20 billion shillings. A difference of 20 billion shillings.
The difference in numbers replicated in the difference in alliances amongst the legislature and the executive. The senators accused the National Treasury and the National Assembly of forming an unholy alliance that has frustrated the devolution agenda time and again.
We are actually a functional dictatorship as we sit as a country. Because at the moment, nobody can ask any question. People just sit down, they decide counties will get money, they will not get money.
They are denying counties money and seeking for night allowances.
Hii upumbavu imetoka wapi ndugu zangu?
The Supreme Court is expected to advise on a number of things, key amongst them the role of the Commission on Revenue Allocation in determining the sharing of the national revenue, the constitutionality of the Appropriation Bill 2019 that was passed before the conclusion of the processes, and the Division of Revenues Bill 2019, and whether or not the counties can borrow externally or internally independent of the national government. The governors insist that the outcome of this case could very well determine the continued existence of the devolution agenda in the country. Brenda Wanga, NTV, Nairobi.
That report by Brenda Wanga begins our discussion this morning. I'm joined in studio by Mithika Linturi, the senator for the great county of Meru. Karibu.
Asante.
Also joining us this morning is Professor Peter Kimuyu, who is a commissioner at the Commission for Revenue Allocation as well. We are expecting Honorable Caleb Amisi, who is a member of Parliament for Saboti constituency, to join us as well as a representative of the National Assembly in this discussion that we are having today. Let me start with you, Senator. Did we have to get here to a situation where the governors and the COG, of course, alongside the senators, have to go to court to seek an advisory opinion on this matter?
We really don't have to if there is a good review and if really we have a serious leadership that...
Okay, just hold on, Bwana Senator, as we fix your microphone. But this is an issue that has raised a lot of questions and concerns among Kenyans. Counties appear to be paralyzed at this moment in time, Professor, because it appears they will not, 3 weeks into the new financial year, and it appears they will not be receiving any funds for the month of July. Perhaps the earliest I think they can get this is sometime in September, because the National Assembly has also gone on recess, among other issues that of concern. But you were making a point, Senator, before we interrupted.
Yeah, I'm saying, I was just saying that we really do not have to get to this kind of a situation, because it's a situation that I believe through dialogue, through consultation and goodwill, if there is political goodwill, it's a matter that we can resolve. And I think just like I've seen in many other forums, we are in this situation because we are children from a polygamous marriage or a polygamous family, where the parents do not bother or do not care or do not want to know why the children are fighting, and for that matter, because of that irresponsibility, we'll have to sit down and watch their own children strangle one another. I don't know. Wait until one is dead for them to go and bury, and it's really, really, really unfortunate.
Yes.
And we are here because understanding the rules of the Senate very clearly, and especially on the aspect of protection of the interests of the counties and their governments, and very well knowing that the Commission of Revenue Allocation is a constitutional body formed under Chapter 15, and one of the major functions of such commissions is to protect the sovereignty of the people, promote constitutionalism, yes, and secure the observance by state organs of democratic values and principles. And for this matter, where I sit as a senator, Meru, I am very persuaded and convinced that when CRI makes a proposal, makes recommendations on a formula to be applied in the division of revenue, then they not just do it in vain. They must do it, and the institutions that are supposed to be guided by the formula are supposed to observe such recommendations, because this is a technical team. So, and Senate is supposed to determine that. So when this happens, and you find that there is always some disconnect in terms of understanding, in terms of interpretation of what all this thing is all about, and there is a serious discrepancy in terms of the amounts of money that out of the application of the formula, the counties will be able to lose. And as a protector of that interest of the counties, then I am bound to use laying down judicial mechanisms or systems to seek interpretation, so that if those that are in doubt are able to get an opinion from an independent independent body. So that's why we are saying, if we cannot agree on how this formula is supposed to, on the interpretation of what the role of the CRA and what Senate is doing vis-a-vis the application of the formula in the division of revenue, then is you apply Article 165 and go to the High Court to seek interpretation, and so that you can be guided. Because the Supreme Court has and pronounced itself before, and they have given us directions on how we must approach these things. But just I have said, I don't think there's any political goodwill completely from the senior leaders in this country in having this matter properly resolved, because I think they are also not very keen on ensuring that devolution works. And that is why you find that many people will say, yes, I think this is money that we are giving too much, and that when it goes to counties is looted by the governors or is stolen. Yeah. To me, it is not whether the money is being stolen at the county or not. It's the principle on why devolution is here and why money should, with an appropriate formula, must go to the counties. Why? Why 74 functions must be accompanied by resources. Okay. That is what should be discussing, and not what will go to what, because the aspect of budgeting and what should be used for whatever program is the preserve of the county assembly and the various county governments here. So you can't blatantly condemn county governments by saying money is stolen, because not all counties are stealing. There are counties that in this country have had very clean bills of from the controller and auditor general, giving them unqualified opinions. And for that matter, let us not really lose sight and focus on the real issues.
All right. Professor Kimuyu, what is I'd like to know the position of CRA on this, because you came up with a new formula, and then out of that, I think there was proposed 335 billion shillings from the onset, which the Senate approved, but the National Assembly declined, sticking to 310 billion shillings. And then you went into a mediation and came up with the new figures that we are looking at right now. Senate 327 billion, the National Assembly 316 billion. What is the position of CRA on this?
Thank you very much. Our position is that we take time to do what we consider the best in terms of coming up with our recommendations, using data supplied to us by the National Treasury, because we don't have a mandate on data. But we give recommendations which then are supposed to be considered by both houses. And of course, there are other mechanisms like the IBEC mechanism, and we've had quite a number of meetings since February. What should happen at this point is that I think we've actually achieved quite a lot, because the gap is narrower now. We should, what is constitutional is for Parliament, National Assembly to actually come up with a new bill, with new figures, which are agreed upon. Not the old figures that they were talking about, not 310, because that's not, we need to keep on forgetting our position. It's not time for grandstanding. It's a time for moving forward in terms of helping our country. But let me come back to our recommendations. Because actually, when you look at the 335 against a forecast of 1.87 trillion, it means that it translates into just 17 shillings and 90 cents for every 100 shillings. So the counties are getting 17 shillings, 90 cents for every 100 shillings. And remember, we are, I think all of us should be beholden to equity, because that's what the Constitution speaks to. We think, and these figures actually were an outcome of a very simple process, because we said there's a framework that we normally use. But for this year, because we had gotten wind that the resources are not what they're supposed to be, we would only adjust for both levels of government, so that both would be able to give the same level of service as they did last year. So it's nothing outlandish, really. But the point is that we shouldn't drag on anymore, because Kenyans are suffering on the ground. And of course, when you delay, what it does is that it means that we'll blame the counties for not spending, because if you release late, then they'll not have time to spend. Meanwhile, the service will be suffering.
Okay. What was the basis for 335 before it was scaled down to 327, at least in your mediation talks between you and the senator? What was the basis for the 335? Because the Act in 2018-19 apportioned some 314 billion shillings, all right? And the supplementary budget, in pursuit of austerity, I think it was slashed by 9-point-something billion, and then it went to 304 billion shillings. And stuff like that. So what was the basis? What informed? Were you increasing from 314 or 305 billion to get to 335? And what informed that figure?
Our understanding was that once the CARA is locked in, you can't change it. So we were basing our figures on 314. 314. That was our base. Okay. Because it's difficult to adjust the CARA midway. Once it's been published, you want to stay with it. But then look at what happens in the future. So we sort of based our figures on, we used 314 as a base. Okay. And then, as I said, we just considered, we could have considered lots of other things, but we said, let's make sure that every level of government can give the same level of service like they did during the 2018-2019 financial year. And that's what we did. That's what gave us the 335.
335.
Yeah.
All right. Before we get into the mediation, Senator, the grandstanding that you are seeing right now between both houses of parliament and the National Assembly insisting that this is purely a role that they should serve in terms of determining the allocations and all of that. But in an advisory opinion of the Supreme Court in 2013, and I'm going to read a bit of it, the Division of Revenue Bill 2013 was an instrument essential to the due operations of county governments as contemplated under the Constitution, and so was a matter requiring the Senate's legislative contribution. That's what the Supreme Court said in 2013, all right? With regard to any future lack of accord of a similar nature between the two chambers of parliament, there shall be an obligation resting on the state organs in question to resort to mediation. Which means the National Assembly cannot just come about and say, this is the figure, and then we have decided we are not listening to anyone else, not the Senate, no CRA, not whoever. And the Senate can also not say that we can't discuss this with the National Assembly or the CRA in that effect. And therefore, that mediation is very necessary. And that has been done, of course, with the CRA, and they revised the figures. But still, there's no agreement. Are we flouting an advisory opinion in this case?
If I have heard you properly, I think when almost at the closing paragraph, the wisdom of the Supreme Court was where there is difference. The state organs may go to mediation, the concerned. Is that what you're saying?
Yes, yes.
The state organs, just pick the right
yes,
ones.
Obligation resting on the state organs in question to resort to mediation as a basis of
yes, so what I
functioning.
would further interpret that to mean when the judges pronounce themselves on that is that the state organs concerned here going to mediation would involve the Senate, the CRA, the National Assembly, and the Treasury. Yes. Those are the state organs, because if the minds of the judges never required other institutions to come into play, then they would have seen the National Assembly and the Senate. And for that matter, this is a discussion that should be resolved between those 4 or 5 players. Yes. But you see, when you listen to the National Assembly speak, you start wondering whether actually they're in their senses. Because being an institution that I once served and where each member has taken oath to protect the Constitution of Kenya, we must be looking at what the law provides and not whether I have a feeling or a liking of the Senate or the Treasury, whoever it is. Because when the law is clear and is written, and unless there are changes or amendments to it, then that becomes the operating law. And for that matter, whether you like it or not, then you must be guided, you must respect it, you must operate by that particular provisions of the Constitution or any legislative enabling statute that has so been created. So I think the Senate has been so clear that where we cannot agree because we believe we are properly interpreting the Constitution and what should happen, and we cannot be able to agree, then let's seek further advisory opinion, and this is what happened. But one question that so is disturbing me is that even when people are trying to pull from different directions, I don't know whether we're asking ourselves for whose or in whose interests are we doing all this. Because where we sit, we purely want to see the best of the services, right, to our people that elect us. For example, Mithika Linturi is the Senator of Meru County. I'm elected by residents in Meru County. The residents in Meru County come from different sub-counties. Yes. These sub-counties or constituencies are elect members of parliament who sit in the National Assembly. The mandate of the National Assembly, one of them, is to protect and resolve issues affecting the people. My interest, our major mandate, is to protect the interests of the county government of Meru and its the people of Meru, and the county government of Meru. So when you look at these functions, are almost okay, they may not be similar, but I would say they are concurrent in one way or another, because we serve the same people. And whether you are in a certain constituency, right, then those particular residents of that constituency will require the services of the county government because the 9 constituencies fall within a certain county of government. So if the members of parliament understood this simple basic principle, we will not be arguing so much on whether money should go to the county or not, because this money is going to the same people. These members of parliament are struggling to ensure, by the use of the little CNTF money that they are struggling to ensure some roads are opened up in the constituencies which are within those counties. They are being asked for money to provide water, health, and all these kind of things. So I think the leadership of this country views us as sitting that now the way things are, we can have a sitting whereby we should really ask ourselves very serious questions, because we can't allow this continue. And the more we delay, the more service in delivery is affected to our people, the more we lose out on our agenda. So for example, let me say, you see, when you look at the 24 functions, the major functions of national government are to do with policy. The implementing authority or institution is the county government. So whether we want to talk about Big Four agenda, whether it's housing, whether it's healthcare, you not perform it without some aspect of consultation and working together with the county governments. So we need one another, and the constitutional spirit is that we must work interdependently and with the consultation and cooperation. So I think it is us as the leaders who are letting this country down. Okay. The Mwananchi or the Wanjiko or the Olo and whoever has no problem, and I think we have a problem as the leaders. And immediately we understand as the leadership of this country that we have a problem and sit down to resolve the problems of this country, then better for this country, because I don't think we'll be ending the right way or we're ending the right direction, because we are becoming very negligent of small things that we need to resolve as leaders.
All right, Professor, before we listen to the heads of both houses and what they had to say about this issue, during the mediation talks in which you came up with the new figures, at least the Senate and the National Assembly, what was the nature of those talks? Because, and I know this is the political angle of it all is not your concern as CRA, the bickering between the Senate and the National Assembly. But what was the nature of the talks, and how did we arrive at 327 for Senate and 316 for the National Assembly? And why did we not agree to begin with during the mediation talks?
That's a tough one for the Commission, because, as you very clearly said, that's not really our space. But of course, we are very interested in coming together of minds, both the National Assembly and also Senate, and so to some extent, we are happy that we're still not talking about 310 and 335. Yes. Okay, but in terms of the political process of mediation. In fact, I think Mheshimiwa would agree that there seems to be some kind of a gap in the Constitution, because if we try to mediate, I mean, the senators and the members of parliament have tried to mediate, I think, twice or thrice, But then eventually went up with a collapse. And it seems like that ruling there was helpful in terms of having not just the members of parliament, sorry, not just the National Assembly and Senate, but also some other party there, some other state organ there,
Yes.
so that we can hope to kind of bridge the gap, pass faster, because every delay is a delay in development, and it's very costly for us as a country. But yes, indeed, we are participants, but observers basically. And because we're interested in what happens in terms of an outcome of the mediation process.
But I understand that during those mediations, of course, the disparities in the figures, and then they scaled down to 327 and 316. How did we arrive at those figures, really? What was the explanation behind that?
I don't think there's any formula, really, in mediations. It's just to say, look, this is your position. Could you it's about give and take.
Yes.
And so there was a bit of giving and taking, which is why we ended up with a 316 on
There's
one
no
side.
formula involved.
There's no formula at all.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Let's listen to the leadership of both houses. That's Aden Duale, who is the National Assembly Majority Leader, and Kipchumba Murkomen. They were going at each other, literally, when it comes to the functions of both houses.
Pesa ni ile tu ya serikali kuu. Si mnalipa kodi hapa. Hiyo pesa ya kodi inaenda wapi? Mfuko yako iko na 310. Si kwanza uanze na kazi hiyo. Alafu ukimaliza tunaongeza kama ni 5 billion nyingine tutaongezea.
We are actually a functional dictatorship as we sit as a country. Because at the moment, nobody can ask any question. People just sit down, they decide counties will get money, they will not get money, there will be this, there will be not that.
So what's happening there, Senator, is that the leadership of both houses going at each other in terms of now, in a larger sense, the functions of both houses, the National Assembly saying they have the last word on anything about, making of laws and whatever functions there are. The Senate, on the other hand, believe that they should actually have a lot of input on matters, especially around devolution and the counties. What's going on in Parliament? Because this is threatening a lot of other things, not just the division of revenue bill.
You know, when you look at Ndwale's body language and the manner in which he's trying to express himself, you'll find that his language is that of a person that demeans the Senate. Because when you start talking about, tumia hii 310 billion, alafu kimalisha tutakuongezea ingine, it's as if you are the mercy of the National Assembly, and for that matter, you must get whatever you are given. And that is why we are getting it wrong. And and I think Murkomen is putting it out very clearly when you hear him speak. But you need to ask yourself, if these are the leaders of majority, one is the leader of majority in the Senate, the other one is in the National Assembly. And these people are expected to be in charge of government business in either of the houses. And all these people, in terms of progress, in terms of passage of laws, have to report to the executive, also to the president, because they must tell him on what is happening, because we have a responsibility to pass laws to enable the executive and deliver on their mandate. That will tell you that actually there is serious disconnect, because I don't expect, if there are situations where there are real problems that people are sat down and are meant to understand critically with respect and mutual understanding, people will not really disagree. Because, for example, if the position of national government or the executive is that because you can't give what you really do not have, if they have a problem in raising revenue or in collecting revenue, although the benefit of failure to collect revenue by law should benefit or should not affect the allocation to counties, if my mind serves me right. But I am saying that if there was a sitting where there are compelling reasons and people are persuaded and explained, Senate probably wouldn't be willing to listen and understand the kind of a scenario situation that we are in, because it doesn't require rocket science for anybody to look at what is happening in the country, to understand and feel, yes, the country is broke, and there is a lot of problem in terms of cash flow in the whole country. So I'm saying if that was the case and the leaders of this country sat down with the people that are supposed to communicate, at least to the two chambers, then I don't think there would be such a problem. But when you look at them and hear them speak, they also appear frustrated, and probably such meetings do not take place, and everybody else is left to exercise his free mind in debating a matter without having to understand exactly what the problems would be in terms of why we cannot fulfill one promise or another.
All right. Before we continue with this discussion, because there's also a report that says that counties are spending less than 50% of the budget allocated to them. So many would then ask that why are we giving you a lot of money if you don't spend it, at least on the functions that you are required to. But before we continue with that discussion, let's cross over to Pangani Estate here in Nairobi, where we have Helen Aura for us. She's looking at some of the evictions by the county government happening this morning. Helen, what more can you tell us about this?
Edmond, as you can see behind me, the residents here at Pangani Estates are trying to pick up the pieces of what has been left of the demolitions that happened yesterday at 11:30 a.m. Majority of them actually tell us that they were left out in the cold, as this demolition went on till 3:30 a.m. And I'm actually joined by the chairman for Pangani Resident Estate, who's also in part of the committee for the urban renewal, and maybe he can give us more towards the demolitions, what happened. Mr. Chairman, is it that you were given the notice for vacation but you refused to vacate, or what exactly happened?
On a serious note, excuse me, let me just... We never received any notice for vacation. We have never refused to listen to discuss with the county. We have continued saying that we are supposed to leave the estate by 31st of July, but all that has been done verbal and in the press, and nothing official. They've never communicated to us. We don't have an eviction notice. We don't have any official. Now they give us an eviction. They have been saying we are supposed to leave by 31st of July. Now, we went to court on 9th of July, and because they had given us some documents regarding compensation, of which we were supposed to go through the documents, and then we were supposed to go and sign. But the documents were voluminous, and they had a lot of legal background. We could not, as laymen, we could not handle it. We had to give it to if anything, that's what we had been advised to our lawyers. And we advised, we had told them, the lawyer, to continue dealing with the lawyer, because he's the one who is advising us that the document, what you have here, does not favor you at all. So, since we saw they are not listening to us, that's how we ended up going to court. Now that there is a court case, and there is supposed to be a ruling on 18th of July. That should be on Thursday. We don't know what advised them to come and demolish the houses. Now it has been a long night. It has been a long night. Yeah.
I understand this is part of the county's plan to put up affordable housing, and they said on their end that they'd already paid off certain residents a check of 600,000 that they can vacate, and giving them an assurity that they will be given first priority once the affordable housing have been put up. Did everyone receive those checks?
I do understand. Yes, some people did receive checks of 600,000. But not all of us, just some people. And the reason why the others didn't collect the checks is because they were following the advice of the lawyer that what we are being offered is not correct, because if anything, you are supposed to collect payment and sign for what you are collecting. But here, most of we understand those who collect the checks, who are collecting checks and just signing on a piece of paper. We don't know what that piece of paper was, because there was no understanding on that. So there are those people, yes, there are those people who have picked the checks, and some of them have already left on their own will. But most of those who picked the checks were still in their houses, because they were still not convinced. After they were given the document, they found that what they received was not what they had bargained for.
And majority of the residents here have stayed for how long?
On average, we have residents who have stayed here 35 years up to 55 years, even 60 years in this estate. Yes.
And was there a tenant purchase agreement?
In that document there is that agreement which was never signed. Yes.
All right. Well, there you have it, Edmond. Still been an ongoing battle between the county and the residents here of Pangani Estate. Back to you, studio.
Thank you so much, Helen Aura, talking to some of the residents of Pangani Estate who've been evicted and the houses are being brought down. The county government of Nairobi says it wants to construct the high-rise apartments as a part of the affordable housing project, at least by President Uhuru Kenyatta in the Big Four agenda as well. Now, back to our discussion of the day, which is a stalemate between the governors on one end and the senators on one end, and the National Assembly and the Treasury on the other over the Division of Revenue Bill 2019. And let's go to Migori County, where our reporter Bernardo Juang is, Homa Bay County, I should say, where our reporter Bernardo Juang is, to talk to some of the residents over there and the county officials and perhaps the leaders on what they think about this. Over to you, Bernard.
Very much. Thank you very much, Nyabola. We are here in Homa Bay town. Remember, it is the standoff between the Senate and the member of the National Assembly has triggered different reaction, as they say that the MPs should have taken that opportunity at least to fight for this money, at least come to down to the counties as they were fighting for their allowances. Remember, the MPs faulted their counterparts, saying that they didn't show where these 25 billion shillings will be sourced from. And we are just going to talk to some of the locals here just to tell us what do they think about the spending of the county, how their counties have spent the money, and also what do they think about...
Well, we do apologize for that loss of signal. Bernard Ojuang live from Homa Bay talking to us about the issue we are discussing this morning, which is the stalemate in the Division of Revenue Bill 2019. And he was just about to talk to some of the residents of that part of the country, but we can't take it because of that loss of signal. Let's take a short break on NTV today this morning. When we come back, we still have our guests in studio. We'll be going back to Homa Bay as well and talking to the rest of our correspondents and reporters on this issue. Stay with us.
Are you looking for a university or tertiary institution that fits your needs? Join us at the Career Fair by My Network Magazine on 3rd August 2019 at KICC from 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. The theme is Technology, Education and the Future. Entry is free. Join us and get the opportunity to interact with institutions of higher learning, tertiary institutions and career guide experts. Lots of fun and entertainment throughout the day. TN Republic will be live on ground. For more information, call 0707-871-918 or email projects@ke.nationmedia.com.
Nilizae kama hajalema.
Serikali ileta dawa gani?
It's almost a year, nothing has been done.
I just need some form of information.
Dr. Mugo Wairimu first hit the headlines when a video clip showing him raping an unconscious female patient in his clinic.
With the puzzle surrounding the sugar saga yet to be cleared.
How many times were you sexually abused?
Like 3 times.
How was a convicted child molester allowed to set up a children's home in the country?
NTV News. Bold, balanced, authoritative.
I need you to find out everything about that Eva Mapendo.
I can do it for you. Just pay me $200.
It's so easy, right?
It's just that somebody wanted to have me and my daughter Angela killed. She was taken from me.
USIU Africa provides a world-class education that is dually accredited in Kenya and the United States. Apply now for the September 2019 intake and soar to greater heights with USIU Africa. Education to take you places.
In a country of over 200 million people, finding suitable and affordable housing can be quite a challenge. I am in Lagos, Nigeria, to have a first-hand experience of what would be rented space while house hunting.
As a trainer, you have to think as a horse, so that I know when they need to exercise, when they need to eat, when they need to be washed, when they need to be in a boma.
There's more to Zambia than just copper mining. Small businesses are key drivers of economic growth the world over. I'm here to meet entrepreneurs who are finding creative ways of doing business.
Taste imeweza na bei imeweza. Streetwise 2 is now at 350 shillings.
Wow.
2 pieces of original recipe or hot and crispy chicken and regular chips. It's finger-licking good.
Think critically and approach questions, challenges, and setbacks with a positive and proactive attitude. You'll gain a reputation as someone who wants to make an impact and get things done.
At Amboseli Institute of Hospitality and Technology, we take your future seriously. We produce highly skilled graduates in hospitality, tourism, fashion, and design. Think quality, think future. Think Amboseli Institute. Enroll today.
Welcome back to NTV Today. This morning we are discussing the stalemate in a division of revenue between the National Assembly and the Senate, and the wars and the battles that we have seen as a result of that. I have in studio Mithika Linturi, the Senator for Meru County, and Professor Peter Kimuyu, who is a commissioner at the Commission of Revenue Allocation, in studio this morning to talk about that. We are still expecting Caleb Amisi, who is a member of Parliament for Saboti constituency, is yet to arrive. But let's continue with our discussion. Prof, what is the way forward, all right, before we discuss this issue of the expenditure by counties? What is the way forward? Because the National Assembly has gone on recess, I think for 2 weeks or something. They are talking about tabling a new bill. But what do you anticipate will happen? At least what would you like to see happen going forward?
What the Commission, and I know I speak on behalf of all of us, especially the Chair, would expect is that there will be a new bill. But that new bill would have better figures. Figures not leaning towards what the National Assembly had in mind, not the senators, but something in the middle. Because life is about giving and taking. So we're at a point where we need just to begin to converge.
Yes.
And if you want me to toss a figure like 320 is something that could be considered.
Okay.
Now, but do remember also that, it doesn't matter how little it is that we have. Let's share the little, but equitably. That should be the principle. That if you just raise 1 billion, let's share it equitably between the two levels of government. That should be the principle.
Okay. Senator, what would you like to see happen before we get into this?
Just as the professor is saying, equity is a very fundamental principle in our national, in our governance system. And the imagination that one is trying to cheat on the other or denying him the revenue because of his or her selfish interests without looking at what the other arm of government is supposed to be doing is really brings a lot of bad blood.
Yes.
And for that matter, I would still insist that mediation is very critical, it's very important. You know, in law, we say, you know, you may get a judgment, you may not be able to enforce the judgment, you may not get the fruits of any judgment, but any settlement that is agreed on is good, is very good settlement, because one, you leave one another happy, you shake hands and you are happy. Unless situations whereby you have to drag one another, fight one another, by the time you are getting a judgment, you are enemies, you can't say or talk to one another. You know, that's not a situation that we want to see as a country, because we are not really taking these positions because of personal interests. And we are doing it because for the people that we really represent, and at the same time trying to safeguard what our mandate requires us to do. So if we are able to understand that, there shouldn't be any problem at all, but let's still continue exploring this aspect of mediation.
All right. The Deputy President, William Ruto, speaking over the weekend, did allude to this issue of mediation between the two houses of Parliament, and this is what he had to say.
We will agree, I am certain, and I don't think it is necessary for us to take drastic steps like going to court and doing other things. I want to persuade county governments for us to sit down. We've already structured engagements between the counties, the national government, National Assembly, the Senate, because that is what the Constitution anticipated, that there will be discussions, there will be engagement in consultation and in cooperation between the various arms of government so that we can all move together.
That issue of dialogue and mediation between the two houses and the CRA and, of course, the Treasury as a way forward to diffusing this stalemate that we have right now. But let's move this forward to something else. According to the county government's budget implementation review report, counties are spending less than 50% of their budget. That report actually came out, and the Daily Nation has done a story on page 10. And the top 10 counties in terms of expenditure, Narok tops at 66.9%. Kitui is second with 59.6%. At number 10 is Kakamega County with 54.7% of the revenue that was allocated to them. The bottom 10 counties with very worrying numbers here is Wajir at 32.9% and Turkana having spent 43.9%. So Wajir is the last with 32.9%. So the question here then, Senator, is why are you asking for more money when the amount that you've been allocated is not being spent in the first place, and 50% of it has to be returned to the exchequer?
Okay. I hope when you say when I've been allocated, you don't mean that Linturi.
No, yeah, the county government.
Given the man and has been unable to absorb.
Yes.
One, I must agree that one of the things that disturb me is this aspect of failure by county governments to absorb money. Because when you have a budget of so much money and you know that budget is supposed to be used within 365 days, your absorption capacity, your absorption depends on your proactivity to plan your programs so that they fit in within the year, and very well knowing the frequency of disbursements of these monies to the counties from the national government, of course, taking into account your general revenue, then you are able to deliver services to the people equivalent to the amount of money set assigned by the budget within that particular year. So when counties do not absorb money, and you know, some time back we've had serious problems when we bring out these issues, because we are saying, as senators, my position has been, if you do not absorb money, then it means that you are suspending services that you should have given this year to a later date, and that, for that matter, you can't develop. So I would expect or require the county government to be more proactive in terms of planning, in terms of identifying their priority projects within a particular year and ensure that there is compliance in terms of procurement and implementation, so that no money rolls over to the next financial year. And I basically only want to blame that this one on the county governments themselves, because they're in charge of their own programs. Yes. So either it is out of incapacity, either in their procurement departments or in finance, because finance and procurement is will surely will have to have blame in cases whereby there is very low absorption or there is no absorption at all. Secondly, I want to say that because I'm the vice chairperson of PAC, and when we raise once in a while, we raise these questions to the governors when they appear, just like they are doing today. The common answer that we are given by governors is that the Treasury is always delaying in releasing funds. When I want to critically look at that, yes, it could be some reason, because the controller of budget is the one mandated by law to monitor budget performance. And the county government, even those that are very proactive, may be able to plan, may be able to award their contracts as long as they're within budget. But at a particular period when the budget report is being implemented, report is being done, probably you find that the counties have not paid. And the report that the controller of budget gives is purely on the amount related to the amount of money that the controller has authorized, right, to be paid out to counties. So you may have given so much work, right? You may have pending bills there. Government has not released money to your account, and for that matter, you've not been paid. Yes. You've not been able to pay. So when the report is being done, you find that the budget controller will report that you've not been able to absorb, without knowing that you have so many pending bills that are not being paid for because money has not been released. So it can only be fair to everyone when you look at all the issues that were at play, or facts that were considered by the controller of budget at the time of doing or presenting this report, so that you are able to understand exactly what really happened to each county or what the issues were. Okay.
Professor, the problem of not having the money is a major problem, all right? But here is a situation where you have the money you've allocated using your formula, and you do this. The figure is not the same for all the counties, all right? ASALs generally tend to get a bit more. You're talking about the likes of Wajir and all of them, because of the nature of the needs that are there. So you allocate them money, say a figure of 4.5 billion for, say, Wajir, all right? Based on the needs that they have. But only 33% of it is being spent when you allocated this money, knowing the need that they have and the issues that they need to address. So now you're having money, but then you're having a problem spending it on the services or even development agenda or programs that the Senator is talking about. Why do we have this?
No, obviously it's awkward.
Do you consider this really a CRE?
We do, but let me just clarify that when you look at the counties, when we devolved, these units were at very different levels. I mean, in terms of the initial conditions. Devolution is a process. And when you juxtapose that point with the fact that we have not yet professionalized the public service at county level, then I'm not surprised that performance is suffering at the moment. But I think what Senator says is also true, that there could be delays. In fact, this delay in the bill, in the division of revenue, is a setup for some further delays towards, in the course of this year. But the point I wanted to make is that this is devolution is work in progress. We are beginning from different places. I mean, the initial conditions for the different counties are very different. There's also an issue about the quality of leadership in those counties. So some leaders are better performers than others for obvious reasons, because they're not duplicates. And the way then it plays out is that you end up with a performance outcome like that one there, where it looks like there's no capacity, or where there's no absorption. And we sort of, as a commission, we're trying to sort of build capacity as much as we can at the county level. In fact, this morning there's an event where we're preparing a curriculum for training on how to sort of raise revenues, and how to even developing the integrated development plans is a major issue for some of the counties. So I think there's need for some kind of patience, but that signal there is powerful, that we should not look at just the allocations, we should look at where the money is going, but also find out why it is that for some counties, there seems to be a major problem in terms of absorption.
Okay.
Allow me to say this next time, because if you are doing a story, you need, and nation is rent across the country, the best thing is also to publish from number 1 to number 47. It's because you have a right to inform this country, and so that people can know whether their governors are working or they are not, so that it will not become selective. But my experience tells me that, counties or governments are supposed just to be run just like any other business enterprise. To me, government is a commercial entity, it's business. The only difference is that any business is objective is to maximize on profits. And in government now is the reverse, is the converse, is to maximize on delivery of social responsibility or service to the people. And that's why when you have such a budget, and for you to get optimal performance, you must ensure that all the money that you are given is utilized completely within that particular year. And we knew, and I think the drafters of the county government acts and all the enabling laws that support devolution knew that in an election that you may not be able to get the best manager in terms of running the affairs of county, but at least when you have somebody who is able to sit down and have technocrats or people professional to work with, then you will be able to do something. And that's why in the county government acts under, I think, section 35 or something, or thereabout, there are very clear provisions on the qualifications of who should sit in cabinet or in the county executive committees, because this is the top policy making organ that is supposed to come with full policy to run a county. And these are people expected to be competent enough to have a serious experience in whatever line or in whatever field that they are appointed to, or department that they are appointed to serve. So one of the problems that I am thinking about, probably, why there is also low absorption, is because you may find that in certain counties, in terms of people that are being given changed responsibility to run, say, a hierarchy department, when you find, you go like to Kilifi or whatever, you find a person running the county department of county department of earth is a teacher, right? So for that teacher to understand what goes around the medical services or department, it will take him like forever. He may not be able to understand. Or you find someone who is running roads, right? Is completely, who has no bearing, who has no ideas in engineering, whether civil, mechanical, or whatever it is. So I think some of these failures would also be blamed on the CEOs of these counties by not giving people departments that are so competent or qualified to run. And for that matter, when that happens, then you only have to blame the CEO. And finally, the other aspect is that there is lack of confidence by the CECs in most institutions, because they do not have the muscle, they do not have the confidence to exercise authority because of the kind of bureaucracy or structure of leadership in different counties, because they must always seek concurrence with the governor or the other handlers or the brokers that surrounding governors. Those are the worst people that can have in a system, and that's why in most cases you find that they are not performing, because even for you to give any small pieces of work or to exercise authority on your office, then you must always be calling someone asking, what will Mbos be saying about this? What did you hear talk about? Completely a situation which is not really warranted.
All right. I know you have to leave because you have engagements this morning, but I want to give you a final round of comments in terms of just, closing comments on this discussion that we've had today, because the President actually signed the Appropriations Bill 2019 into law without the passage of this Division of Revenue Bill. And this has affected counties because some of the counties are even yet to pass their own budgets to be able to appropriate, funds for different projects that they have and issues that they need to address. Some have, but they're working on figures that are not actual, because then how do you know what you will get at the end of this entire procedure? So let's just one final round of comments, closing remarks from CRA and from the Senator on the way forward in this and what then happens as we move on forward. Professor.
My urge is that there should be convergence between the two houses of parliament, in that the sooner that happens, the better for this country. Okay. So it's really a plea for our leaders that they consider Kenyans and converge. I already mentioned that if you are to be constitutional, we would expect another bill which reflects that convergence. And again, the sooner this is done, the better. Thank you.
Senator?
I want to say that this requires urgent attention, and we require to sit down and think about it on how to resolve the stalemate. Because, we have devolution is an aspect of our constitutional architecture which we seriously fought for and which we are not willing to let go. And I think despite all the ulambalus about how money is being spent or whatever, people have something to show for devolution. And for purposes of avoidance of doubt, the objects of devolution and why they are critical in this Katiba was to ensure that the institution of the president was demystified. We want them to run away from a situation where we had the imperial president, where for anybody to get any little kind of money to do water, to do some dispensary, wherever, people had to line up in State House and to office of the president to ask for development of money for development. That is why we want to fight so strongly to ensure devolution, so that people can have an opportunity to engage and participate in the affairs that touch on their well-being and to decide on what they want to do, because this country has unique problems, and these unique problems must be addressed by the people that understand what their problems are. And that's why the aspect of public participation is also key under Article 10. And resource devolution of resources to the grassroots also required us, so that we don't continue making billionaires in Nairobi, right? Let us take some money to the grassroots, so that at least any mama mboka who is selling there and there is a project that is from building and dam, people are able to buy cement or wire or whatever it is within that local market, and those people working around there then can be able to feed on the kiosk that is next. That means we are taking money directly to the common mwananchi in the village, so that at least we have so many other small millionaires within those villages. And even when there is a call to changa money for either hospital or to build an institution, you have so many people coming out with some little money to support one another, unlike situations whereby you want to look for guests of honors to come from Nairobi to go and assist those people. This was the object. This was the whole idea. So let's not lose sight of the objects of devolution and ensure that we sit down, we discuss, release money to counties so that our people can get the necessary required services.
In one word, is devolution safe?
Devolution is safe with the Senate being in place, because that's why you find that we are not letting it go, because we can't allow devolution. I do not want to midwife the death of devolution as the Senate.
I know this is a political one for you, Prof, but is devolution safe? Do you think?
It's under threat.
Devolution is very important. We need to guard it.
All right.
Because it could actually disappear.
All right. Yeah. Thank you so much. Professor Peter Kimuyu is a commissioner at the Commission for Revenue Allocation, and Mithika Linturi is a senator for Meru. You have to leave because you have some business in Parliament, so I'll let you go. Thank you so much for making time for us this morning and discussing this issue, and we expect, as you said, that there will be a way forward As regards this, the Deputy President, of course, talking about mediation and a dialogue between the concerned parties, in this case, the National Assembly, the Senate, the Commission for Revenue Allocation, and, of course, the Treasury as well going forward in this discussion so that the money can be agreed on and then the county governments and the county assemblies can get to the business of discussing their budgets and appropriating as necessary for the financial year 2019-2020. Still on this topic, let's go back to Homa Bay County, where Bernardo Juang is this morning, and we lost him before, and we have since reconnected with him. Ojuang?
Well, thank you very much, Edmond. We are here in Homa Bay for so that technical hitch. We were talking about the standoff between the Senate and the National Assembly. It is something that has triggered different reactions as the locals and Kenyans are really criticizing the National Assembly for not having a good intention for this country. They are saying that the same way they were fighting for their allowances, the same way they should support this idea by the Senate. And currently we are just going to talk to some of the locals here just to tell us what do they think about the standard and what do they think about the spending of their counties. Join me here. What do you think about the standoff between the Senate and the National Assembly?
Thank you very much. What I think is that the current situation of this nation is that the member of parliaments are fighting for their self-interest because they want to create a crisis to the county government so that when they will be coming in for 2022 campaigns for gubernatorial positions, they'll get an easy platform that the governors who are sitting didn't work so well. And again, I only want to appreciate the Senate because they're really struggling and fighting for this devolved money to come so that they can assist the common wananchi. So I want to condemn what the MPs are doing rather than they should support the development of funds as they are supporting the how do we call it, the allowances that they're crying that they should be given. So I want just to tell this nation that the MPs whom we elected are fighting for their self-interest and we should not listen to their words because this is a guy that he has a mortgage loan, he has a car loan and everything that he benefits from this nation. While we as the common wananchi, the last 5 years we were crying that there were less devolved funds. And now when we had brilliant senators who got in this term and they're fighting and struggling so that money can come to the common wananchi or come to the county government so that we can develop ourselves. And now today they are crying that money should not come and there's a standoff. So we condemn that as the people of Homa Bay.
What do you think about the spending of the county, your county?
Actually, the spending of my county, currently in the last regime, they didn't work so well, but I see today there's some major projects that are running, and I really want to appreciate my governor and his team because we can see there's developments, market is being brought up, a stadium is being built, so there are things that are moving. So I want just to tell the senators, fight hard, fight for your county, fight for your country, and fight for your people so that you can get money to bring up new developments.
Edmond, I'll speak to the last person here. Join me here, young man. You'll set your name and tell us, what do you think about the spending of your county?
Yes, good morning. My name is Bruce. So far, just before I answer your question, I would want to give my view or my take on the stalemate that is between the Senate and the National Assembly. It is of great disappointment that we see the members of Parliament putting a lot of passion, a lot of energy, and a lot of enthusiasm in pushing for their remunerations. But when it comes to issues that are going to touch direct lives of Mwananchi, they shy away and they put a lot of roadblocks or they block the processes. The recommendation by the CRA was very clear on matters of revenue, allocation or the appropriation bill that now they're taking to the court. But I still have faith and hope that the High Court is going to handle or to solve out the impasse that is there between the National Assembly and the Senate over the issue of appropriation bill. Number two, I would want to air out clearly that there is need for county governments and counties. And we stand with governors in this, and we stand with the leadership of the counties in this. There is need for allocation of more funds to the counties because devolution have really touched the lives of people. at any other point in this country, today there is more focus on the county governments than the national government. Nobody talks about the national government at Mashinani here. Everything they want, I'm telling you, even me, I've sought services in the county government, but for the last 1 year or 2 years, I've never sought any service at the national level, except the issue of security. So a lot of resources must be brought down here. And there are a lot of fights within the counties because the resources is very little, but a lot of functions have been devolved.
What do you think about the spending of your county?
It is fair. My county has been fair in spending, and that is why today we cannot even see doctors strike in Homa Bay County. Today we have mega projects running down. The other time, the flagship projects that the governor started had a lot of issues because there are delays of funds sent from the treasury. The treasury sabotages the devolution system, either by delaying sending the funds, or even by the processes they've started right now, like cutting funds for the governors.
The senators were fighting for 25 billion shillings be taken to the county level. Do you think this money, if taken to the county, taken to the county level, do you think the money will be spent wisely?
Yes, there is need to bring that money like yesterday, because the MPs from where they come from, they realize the gap. The development infrastructural gap is huge, and we need this money. Once the money is brought down here, it will sort out even the problems they are purporting that their constituents have, but they don't want to address. Another issue is the MPs know so well that they have a lot of money, but they're doing nothing except issuing of bursaries. What else? Because if it is national county government, if it is issues of agriculture, county government, if it is health, county government. So they have money at the national government, literally doing nothing, yet they have devolved a lot of functions at the county government with little money. And this is what is bringing the fight. And this has made people have perception that the county government have a lot, but they're doing little. We have a lot as a county government. The county governments have a lot to do with mega and little resources. I urge the government, I urge the players, the political players, to take a fair stand on this and give the governors the money. We need service deliveries, and this can only be done with this money. And
from your talk, is like you are, in case the money will not be brought to the county level. Do you think it's going to affect some devolved units?
It is going to thoroughly affect, and it's going to hinder the functions of the government. Right now, there are county governments that have not even passed their budget because of this stalemate. They don't know actually on which ceiling to work their budget against. Yes, but we are lucky enough as Homa Bay, we've done our budget, and today I know they are going to pass the appropriation bill, the bill on expenditure, and I'm happy for that. But I want to urge the political players, that is particularly the members of the National Assembly, to come out and heartedly support Wanjiku, to come out and allow the Senate does its function, and also to bring revenue to our people here. The Treasury did indicate that there is growth. Last time it did indicate that there is growth in the country's economy of 6.2% against the current one, which is 6.1. That is a clear indication that this country is growing economically. So there is no statistic, there is no any other reasonable, be it scientific or whatever method, that they can argue out with to say that there are no monies to give to counties. There are monies because the county is growing. Yes, in fact, when they release the counties, the monies to the counties, that will also help them solve the corruption at the national level that they cannot handle. At the national level, they're having mega corruption scandals, and we see them on the dailies every day.
So the money should be devolved?
The money should be devolved. It should come like yesterday. Yes. And we ask even the president to come in. And I'm glad that the COG and our governors went to the High Court, and we are watching Kili on 19th. We are hoping that all will be well.
Well, thank you very much. Nyabola, you've just heard from Homa Bay County residents. They are saying that they are supporting their senators, that the money should be brought to the county level. They are saying that the same National Assembly members knows very well what the problem their electors are facing at the county level, and they are saying that they should not question where the money will be sourced, but they should support, and the national government will also come up with the idea of supporting the county assembly to enable Kenyans to enjoy the benefits of devolution. Back to you.
Thank you so much, Bernardo Juang from Homa Bay County. Interesting how Mwananchi is actually informed in some of these issues, and they're discussing them with such knowledge and weight in terms of the understanding of the issues and what they'd like to see as a result of devolution. So this is a discussion that we'll be keeping a keen eye on going forward to ensure that at least there's no delay in disbursement of funds in the agreement to begin with, to ensure that services in the counties are not affected. But away from that, and into other news stories. For Mary Atieno, not her real name, the joy of going home with her bundles of joy turned into despair. Almost a year ago, she was wheeled into the Kenyatta National Hospital hoping to deliver twins, but went home with just one baby and a broken heart. She claims her other baby was given out to another woman. The Kenyatta National Hospital disputes her claims that she gave birth to twins. NTV's Gladys Gashanja has her story.
The flurry of the day's activities in Kibra is a veil of a dark secret and deep-seated pain that Mary Atieno, not her real name, has harbored for nearly a year. She hasn't slept well since the 5th of February 2018, the day she was wheeled into theatre at the Kenyatta National Hospital, expecting to give birth to twins.
Waliponitoa watoto wawili, hao manasi wawili wakachukua watoto. Wakaingia nao kwa room. Nasi mmoja alitoka huko, akauliza huyu mwingine, tuache blank. Huyu nasa akamwambia, andika list from Kibira. Hao wakishamaliza kusema hivyo, madaktari wawili wanaume wakakuja, mmoja akawa kwa kichwa yangu, mwingine akawa chini. Nikauliza, hapo watoto wangu ni wawili? Walinyamaza. Tena nikarudi nikawauliza, watoto wangu ni wawili? Sasa hao wakanijibu, pana, mtoto ni mmoja. Huyu wajua akasema, ungemhurumia muachie. Huyu mwingine akasema, tumeshaamua, haturudi nyuma. Alisema hivyo.
The Kenyatta National Hospital, when contacted, discounted her version of events. Kenyatta National Hospital says, and I quote, Mary delivered one child, a baby boy measuring 2.7 kilograms on the 5th of February 2018. And the summit. Mary could not afford a scan, but she says she had sought the services of a midwife who all along told her she was carrying twins.
Nilimwambia hiyo tumbo yako inaonekana kama umebeba watoto wawili.
Nilipokaa wiki moja, nikatoka kwenda kuchukulia pampers kwa duka pale juu. Huyo Liza aliniita. Kaniambia, mama, umebarikiwa kupata mtoto? Nikamwambia, nimepata mtoto. Kaniambia, hata mimi nimepata mtoto huku kwangu. Nikamwambia, umepata aje? Kaniambia, mzee wangu alipatia mwanamke kwa kilafu mimba. Huyu mwanamke alienda akazaa nyumbani na akaacha huko mtoto. Wakati ameacha huko mtoto, mzee wangu ameenda akaleta mtoto. Sasa mimi ninalea katoto. Sasa naomba unipatie nguo za mtoto. Mtoto alipofika miezi 4, nikamwambia, Eliza, uniletee mtoto nimsalimie. Kaniambia, wakati Mungu atapanga nitamleta.
She then reported the matter at the Kilimani police station.
Kuonana wameonana wakati maskari walitoka Kilimani wakakuja. Watoto walisalimiana, wakaangaliana, wakacheka na wakalala safari moja. Wale masista wakaleta yule mtoto na mimi. Tukafanywa DNA ya mdomo. Kaniambia kasichana kingine kamekuja kanasema kamezaa na ndugu yake ili akapatie Elizabeth mtoto. Nikamwambia tukiandikisha statement hakukuwa na mtu mwenye amesema amezaa na ndugu yake.
What I was informed about the disqualification of this complainant is when the first time the DNA test was done and she was not satisfied, which is her right. Then when the court ordered for another DNA test, which was also done with different people, and it came again to be negative to her. So this is when now she started complaining as if she was not satisfied.
An ongoing court case will unearth the truth of claims made by Risper that she gave birth to the child and gave it away to Elizabeth amid questions about why she gave away a child without following due process.
Hiyo DNA wakati imefanya, the same ile majibu alikuwa anakataa. Ndio yale yamekuja tu yametokea hapo hiyo majibu. Ile ya kwanza ndio imetoka. Ndio sasa mimi nauliza Kama hiyo ya kwanza hakufanya na majibu inakuja hivi, tena ya pili majibu imekuja hivi, ukweli iko wapi?
Gladys Gashanja, NTV.
Away from that and back to our discussion of the day, which has to do with the standoff between the National Assembly and the Senate over the division of a revenue bill. And let's cross over to Murang'a County, where our Martin Mwaura is to talk to the members of the public from that part of the country, at least, on what they think about this standoff and what it means to service delivery for them. Martin, good morning. How is Murang'a this Tuesday?
Good morning, Edmond. As you rightly said, we are coming live from County 021 here, and we're on the streets just to dwell on this topic that, excuse me, on our topic for today, which is frustrated governors, frustrated counties. As you can see, yes, they are fighting to have more money sent to counties. But I just want to talk to some of the residents here to tell me maybe if what the counties have been given, the money that had been dispersed before, has it been utilized, has it been put to well use? Kindly join me here on set. And I'd like you to start by telling us your name and tell us, do you support the move by the governors to ask for more money? And do you think what has been given earlier has been well utilized or it has been misused?
Thank you very much. My name is Karanja Wairacho. I'm a resident of Murang'a town. It is very unfortunate that the incident that we saw yesterday for the governors demonstrating, looking and asking for more money. And for sure the national government has pumped a lot of money to the county governments, and yet this money has not been well utilized. So it is good